Pitching and defense helped the Mets pick up an early series victory on Saturday against the Royals, and it also put them right back in first place by themselves in the National League East.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. It's the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find some of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now, as I talk about on this show a lot, sometimes you just have to win games in different ways. For the first two wins the Mets got this week, it was based on some late comebacks with their bats. On Saturday, they finally won a game with pitching and defense, and it all started with Frankie Montas, who put together his best start so far in a Mets uniform. Yes, his Mets debut was 5 scoreless innings, but he walked, I think, 3 or 4 in that outing. This was a start for Montas where he had complete command of his pitches. I think for the first time in these 4 starts. And granted, you do have to understand that any pitcher that starts off their season after spring training can sometimes go through those growing pains of the ramp up where, yeah, you're up to 85 pitches potentially, but it might take a month until you really have your legs under you. I think we maybe saw that turning point here for Montas where maybe after this first half, or after the break, he can really hit the ground running over the final couple of months because he has really good stuff. And you saw it all day on Saturday, able to live in the zone, able to get swing and miss outside of the zone. The splitter had really good command of that pitch. I feel like for the first time all year, we've seen the life that he has on his fastball, the slider being able to get some swings and misses, but also be able to get the ball on the ground. I mean, that's really where Montas can become a really effective pitcher when you get one of these starts where it just seems like he's in complete command and everything's either on the ground or it's a pop-up and nothing is really struck hard and driven deep into the outfield. It really was just a pretty dominant outing for Montas, who did work around a leadoff double in the first inning. He gets Bobby Witt Jr. to pop up after that. Then he strikes at Vinny Pasquantino on a nasty slider and then gets another pop-up to get out of the jam. And from that point on, it was really just easy breezy for Montas through 5. A 1-2-3 second inning, aided by a great diving play by Brett Beatty at second base. 1-2-3 third inning, where he picked up a couple of strikeouts. Fourth inning, he did give up a single, but that was all. And then the fifth inning, another 1-2-3 frame. Through those first 5 innings, he allowed 2 hits, no walks, struck out 5. So it really was in complete command. Sixth inning, started to get away from him. I think if the Mets were winning that game by, a couple runs, if it was a 5-1 lead, maybe they would have stuck with him because he was only at 83 pitches when he exited. But he gave up 2 doubles to lead off that 6th, and Carlos Mendoza was not playing around. The Mets only had a 2-1 lead after that second double scored a run. They got 2 runs in the 4th inning on a absolute monster home run by Juan Soto, his 23rd of the first half. His numbers now are just outstanding after the past 6 weeks of just incredible play. And it's going to be exciting to see what he does with the rest of this season because Soto is clearly locked in now. He was DHing, I think, because maybe he was a little bit banged up. He fouled one off of, seemed like his inner thigh the night before. So give him a DH day. They put Tyrone Taylor in center, moved Jeff McNeil out to right. They had Vientos start a game at third base, Beatty at second. And it all worked out for the Mets because defensively it really was a great game. And the bullpen held up too. Reed Garrett enters with a runner on second base, nobody out. Then he tries to pick off that runner. Errant thrown to the outfield. All of a sudden, it's a runner on third base, nobody out. And that run on third base, or that runner on third base, would have been the tying run. Garrett ends up getting a pop-up to Beatty, then a pretty well-hit ground ball that Pete Alonso was able to knock down and look the runner back over to third and touch the bag for the second out of the inning. Then a fly out, and he escapes. So Mets maybe a little bit fortunate on where some of those balls were hit, but hey, it worked out. Garrett gets through it. Bottom of the 7th inning, again, a little bit of good fortune, but also some great defense. Chris Davinsky comes in, issues a leadoff walk. Then Tyrone Taylor makes his first outstanding catch of the game, where he makes a great catch running up against the wall in left center field to get Devanski his first out. Then after he hit a batter, Luis Angel Acuna makes a couple of nice plays, one on a hot shot, gets the force out at second base, and ultimately Devanski was able to escape. Edwin Diaz enters in the 8th inning to face the top of the lineup, gets a fly out, walks Bobby Witt Jr., and the Mets caught an absolutely massive break as Bobby Witt stole second base. And I guess he came off the bag. Honestly, I didn't even see. I guess you can see maybe his torso gets off the bag by a half an inch. To be honest, in a situation like this, love it. Great call. Awesome. Mets win the game probably or partially because of that. Because otherwise, you got a runner on second base and a really fast runner with a chance to maybe score. Granted, Edwin Diaz easily could have still gone through the inning, but I don't know if he'd be good to go in the 9th inning had that call gone a different way. But the replay review overturned it. I think it's kind of one of those things that you can't fix once it happens. You can't. What's the expression? You can't put the toothpaste back into the container, whatever it is, once into the tube. Once you squeeze it out, like that's it. You can't go back and correct these things. But I mean, that should have been a stolen base from Bobby Witt. When you beat the throw that clearly, and we're just watching you hold. They held the tag on him. You're just watching for that half a second when he gets off. Mets will take it again because after that, Edwin Diaz calmly struck out Vinny Pasquantino to get through that 8th. Stayed on for the 9th where Tyrone Taylor made another outstanding play. Ball that goes over Jeff McNeil's head, but it's okay because Tyrone Taylor was right there making the sliding catch. And then you had Diaz get through the rest of that inning, a couple more outs there to finish off the save. For Diaz, an outstanding first half, 1.66 ERA, 55 strikeouts in 38 innings pitched. That's why he's heading to the All-Star game. He's 4-0 right now and 19 for 20 in save chances. Again, quiet game for the Mets offensively. Soto had that home run. That was pretty much it. The Mets got an insurance run in the 9th as Pete Alonso doubled, and then Jeff McNeil got a 2-out single to bring him home. I also wanted to note that Mark Vientos had another solid day at the plate. 1 for 3, but that one of his outs was a well-struck line drive, 108 miles per hour off the bat, traveled 350 feet, but was caught, but still hit the ball really well. So I'm excited to see Vientos with one more game left to play here in the first half. We'll see what he does with that. And then I'm encouraged that maybe he can get hot here in the second half that I talked about a lot on yesterday's show. But a great win for the Mets, and the Padres are doing them some favors, beating up the Phillies this weekend. So now suddenly the Mets are in sole possession of first place in the National League East. They got a half a game lead, so they're going to have to win on Sunday to ensure it. But a Mets win or a Phillies loss, either of those scenarios take place, and the Mets will go into the break leading the National League East. Obviously, a lot more work needs to be done from there. And a guy that's going to help them with that is Francisco Alvarez. 2 home runs for Alvy on Saturday. I want to talk about his imminent return here in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. When I was using Monarch, I was shocked at all of those subscriptions I had that I was not using, that I didn't even realize I was paying for. Also, you start to get a sense of how expensive takeout is, how much that can pile up. I realized all of that using Monarch. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. Now on Saturday, Francisco Alvarez had a big game in Syracuse in the 8th inning. He was first pitch swinging, ripped a home run to right center field with an exit velocity of 110 miles per hour. That ball traveled over 400 feet. An inning later, he did it again, 110 miles per hour off the bat, over 400 feet, went to pretty much dead central. and hit another home run. He has played 15 games in Syracuse since getting demoted. Started off 0 for 7 with 2 walks and 3 strikeouts in his first 3 games. In the 12 games since, he has homered 7 times, has 16 RBIs. He's gone 13 for 47. That's a 277 batting average, 346 on base, and the big one, a 745 slugging percentage. Obviously, that's against minor league pitching. Francisco Alvarez should rake against minor league pitching. But I think this is a tune-up game that can really help Francisco Alvarez. And it's funny, a story just popped into my head right now of a comparison that might be a wild one, but follow me on this one for a little bit. I remember when I was probably, 4th or 5th grade, maybe, 11, 12 years old, something like that. When I was still playing like rec basketball. And I had a next door neighbor, and this kid was 3 or 4 years younger than me and at least a foot shorter. And he liked to play basketball with me. I was always in the driveway shooting hoops, and he wanted to play with me. And so I decided I'm not going to let the kid win. I'm not going to take it easy on him, but I wanted a competitive game. So we would play up to 21, and I'd give him 20 points. And I would just completely block this kid like crazy. I wouldn't even let him get a shot off, and I would proceed to beat him pretty much every single time. So the crazy part about it, though, was playing this little kid. When I actually got into my actual rec basketball league, my timing was so much better. I blocked more shots that year than I ever had in my life, because something about the timing that I got from every time that kid started to put his shot up, I was right on top of it and had a good season. Now, obviously, I'm talking about basketball, talking about story for myself. It doesn't entirely relate, but it does in one sense. It's about confidence. And that's what the Mets sent Francisco Alvarez down to Syracuse to get some confidence. And now that he has left the yard 7 times, in 12 games, when he gets back to the big leagues, and he homered in half of those games. This was his first multi-homer game. So 6 of those 12 games, he left the yard. Those fences aren't going to look as deep. Yes, minor league ballparks, big league ballpark, big league pitching, it's different. But there's been times when Alvarez has talked about not feeling powerful. Well, now he feels powerful again. And you got to remember, he's still, 23 years old? I mean, is Francisco Alvarez younger or as old as I wonder who's older, him or Acuna? You got November 19, 2001 for Francisco Alvarez. Let's see Luisangel Acuna. Luisangel Acuna, March 12, 2022. So a little bit older Alvarez is than Acuna, but the point stands, still a young guy who has such a bright future. And we see this all the time with fans, and I get it. When guys struggle, it's hard to just blindly follow them. But Francisco Alvarez has so much potential. This is still the catcher of the future for the Mets. I don't think that has changed. This was a matter of just getting him right, and hopefully it works, because we're all watching Luis Torrens and Hayden Sanger. Torrens is outstanding defensively. He is maybe the best backup catcher in baseball. He's so good, but at the same time, he leaves a lot to be desired with the bat. And Hayden Sanger, it's funny. I made a comment on social media the other day. Somebody commented on one of my posts about Sanger, a low A catcher. I said, no. Hayden Sanger is an MLB catcher, but he's a low A hitter. Okay. And I'm not trying to knock the guy. He's always been predicated on his glove, and that's how he's gotten to the big leagues, something that very few people can say that they've been able to do to play in the show. And I think he's a good part of this 40-man roster as a third catcher, but his at-bats are not very good. Francisco Alvarez is going to give the Mets much better at-bats once he gets up, and he's the one catcher they have that has the potential to be a plus bat from that spot to give them legitimate power. 7 home runs in 12 games. It's not crazy to think that Francisco Alvarez can still finish with 15 home runs this season. He's got 3 so far. So that would be, if he had 6 in August, 6 in September, yeah, that would be a 15 home run season. And sure, that might not seem like a lot, but he had 11 last year. So if Alvarez can get back to being even more boom or bust, I'd be okay with it, right? You look at what he did in 2023. I'll take the 25 home runs and the 63 ribbies over 11 and 47 that we saw last year. Granted, in some less playing time, a couple less games played 100 instead of 123. But again, I want to see Alvarez leaving the yard. And we just did a great piece over at Just Baseball about Cal Raleigh arm late and did it, looking at what swing change might have happened to unlock him and turn him into an MVP candidate this year. And it was a little bit of I wouldn't call it an overhaul, but some subtle changes to his setup that just allowed Cal Raleigh to be on time and to feel comfortable in the box and be able to catch up to fastballs, because in previous years, he was getting blown up a little bit. If it was a fastball less than 93 miles per hour, Cal Raleigh was fine, and he was always able to hit breaking balls. But those fastballs that were 95 plus that were coming in, he was struggling. This year. He's on time, and he's crushing those fastballs. Francisco Alvarez, if he can get his timing down, if he can get his confidence right, he can still be a powerful hitter in this lineup, and that's going to go a long way for this team, which here they are, and despite all of the up and down and some fan outrage at times and some rough stretches, again, they are sitting here. If they win on Sunday, if the Phillies lose, they're in first place in the National League East. 65 games left to play after the break, and you're getting so much healthier. We're going to watch Sean Manaea pitch today on Sunday after Clay Holmes' start. Brooks Raley threw another scoreless inning on Saturday. He'll pitch again on Sunday for his first back-to-back. Then he's going to be good to go to make his return coming out of the break. Starling Marte expected to make his return coming out of the break. I'd expect to replace Jared Young. Jose Budo, he was out for an illness. So hopefully he's healthy. He's feeling good. He should come back. And Budo was throwing the ball great before this IL stint. So the Mets are getting another wave of reinforcements here, and Alvarez, of course, being a big part of that to get your starting catcher back. I think this team's in a really good spot. And then, of course, you have the deadline to just add on top of it. And I think there's every chance this team is able to have a great final couple months and separate themselves even from the Phillies to win this division. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and we'll see how the full picture comes together in the second half. But there's still one game left to play, so it's going to be cool to see Manaea get back on the mound, see how the Mets can cover. I should have mentioned this, but really good a really good managerial decision by Carlos Mendoza to just let Edwin Diaz go 2 innings and empty the tank and have Sunday off, because you got Holmes and Manaea. That should cover a large portion of the game and maybe all of the game. We'll see how it goes. So going to be fun to see what the Mets do on Sunday. But to close out the show here, I want to talk about the futures game. The Mets had 2 representatives. We'll go through that real quick to close out the show. If you're an everydayer that always tunes into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. Take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways. You get the live graphics sent to your phone each day, so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Well, the All-Star festivities have already kicked off in Atlanta. The futures game and the celebrity softball game were both on Sunday, and the Mets had 2 representatives in the futures game, Jonah, Tong, and Carson, Benge. Tong came on the mound in the 2nd inning for the National League. That shows you, kind of where he stands right now as a top prospect, that he was given that inning. The first inning obviously went to the top pitching prospect of the National League. I don't even know who did get that start, to be completely honest with you. I just watched the highlights of Tong, but Tong got in there in the 2nd inning, struck out the first batter that he faced on an absolutely disgusting 12-6 curveball. Then he got a line out and a ground out to the shortstop to put up a 1-2-3 frame. Carson, Benge entered in the 5th inning, played left field, and flew out in his lone plate appearance. But what was really nice is getting to see both Benge and Tong speak with the media. You can find that on YouTube now. And both were so comfortable answering questions, particularly Tong, who is a bit of a character. I had no idea that he had so much personality. He talked about beating Sean Manaea in Super Smash Bros., was enthusiastic when asked about his changeup, was showing off the grip, and how he had seen someone throw it on Instagram. He saw the Vulcan change, and then he started to work with it. And just a really interesting kid who has a lot of energy, a lot of excitement right now, and rightfully so. He was praising the organization, talking about how they've been so key to his development, and clearly he is a great ambassador for the Mets right now. And it makes it really hard to even conceptualize an idea of either of those guys getting traded at the deadline. You start to become a prospect hugger when the prospects are this good, where You want to see Jonah Tong in a Mets uniform pitching big games. You want to see Noel McLean and Brandon Sproat and Carson Benge and Jet Williams, all these guys. But what's really exciting about it is how many they have, because when you have a stable of prospects like the one the Mets do right now, you really have the ability to do whatever you want to at the deadline, in the offseason, whenever you need to make a move to fill out your big league roster, you have the capital to do so. And now this is where David Stearns really makes his money, where it's figuring out which players you're willing to move from, which guys you absolutely do not want to move, and how you navigate your assets to always give yourself a chance to win. What's always been the calling card for the Dodgers is every single year they add at the deadline. Every year they find a way to make moves in the offseason and make trades because they continuously develop really good players and really good people too. And that is where they're able to make moves. And Jonah Tong talked about that, how the Mets, the family atmosphere you keep hearing about, talking about how there's so many good people around the organization that it just makes coming to work and getting your stuff in so much more enjoyable, and how it just helps them focus on the main thing, which is just getting better each day. And as Tong said, and I've heard many Mets prospects say this, focus on where your feet are. That's what he's been doing. These guys aren't trying to look too far ahead to the big leagues. They're just trying to focus on what is going on right now. And right now, a lot of them are playing really good baseball in the minor leagues. That's why the Mets have an absolutely loaded Double-A team right now. High A was loaded, still has a lot of prospects that are there, but a lot have migrated up to Double-A. And it's just an organization right now that has a significantly better farm system than they did 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago. I mean, it's just been getting better and better over the last 2 years. I think it's because of the infrastructure that has been set by Stearns and all these people under him. Andy Green, obviously, who's really running the player development side, the way, getting Chris Gross to handle the draft and making the right selections like a Carson Benge. It all ends up getting to this point where, as much as fans at times can be pessimistic and can fall back into the old tropes of, oh, it's the Mets and everything is going to go wrong and all that. Well, at a certain point, some of it's going to wash away, because you're going to have a franchise that is going to get to a point where they're going to find their way every single year to being a winning team and to being a playoff team. And then, the runs in the playoffs, you just take as many chances as you have, get as many bites at the apple as you can, and hopefully at some point you end up winning the whole thing. But it's a lot of fun to see guys like Tong and Benge getting some shine, getting some national spotlight, and to think about a future for the New York Mets. And the funny thing is, for me, I'm going to be spending a lot more time talking about the future, because I'm still recording next week's editions of Locked On Mets. And the show I'm doing here tonight after this one is breaking down which prospects should the Mets put on the table, which should they absolutely not trade. Those two guys in the futures game might highlight that part of the list. And I'll also throw together some mock trades. That'll be a culmination of everything you guys are going to watch or listen to next week. There's going to be 4 trade deadline shows Monday through Thursday. Monday, we're talking bats, which trade deadline acquisitions could complete the Mets lineup. Tuesday, it's going to be about starting pitching, which arms might finish off this rotation. And then bullpen, who could be the Robin to Edwin Diaz's Batman. And then the final show, which will be, like I just mentioned, about prospects that will be put on the table, which one should not be. And it'll be all completed with a couple mock trades on how the Mets can become World Series contenders. So I can't wait till you guys get to watch all of those shows I've been working on. I am going to go live after the game on Sunday on YouTube just to cap off the first half. And then you'll have, again, nothing but deadline stuff throughout the upcoming week. I'm going on vacation, but the Locked On Mets content is going to keep coming. And once those 4 episodes are over with and we get back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even though I'll be out of town for those 3 days, I'm still going to be doing audio-only shows for you guys leading up to my return on video form back home for Monday, as we'll really get into the stretch run before the deadline. Then, of course, just the stretch run of the second half. As always, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on social media at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every single day. Now, for your second watch, Check out Locked on MLB Game Night, the show that takes you around all of the action in Major League Baseball with insight from our local experts on everything going on in the game. Check out Locked on MLB Game Night on the Locked on MLB YouTube channel, as well as the Locked on MLB podcast feed.